We're back at the anchor desk alongside Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth. Let us turn now to a guest via Skype, someone who has considerable experience on this entire question. She's the author of the new book, The New Anti-Semitism, The Current Crisis and What We Must Do About It. Her name is Phyllis Chesler. Phyllis, it's so good to have you back here on America's Forum. And in a recent article in Israel National News, you wrote about the importance of Mr. Netanyahu's address to Congress tomorrow. I'm interested about what we just heard this morning in front of AIPAC.
From what I could hear, and I was thrilled to be able to hear this, Israel has faced ISIS and Al-Qaeda-like terror alone for decades. Hamas, Hezbollah, that's Iranian, the PLO, the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade. And when Israel has defended itself, it has been accused, it has been demonized as the aggressor. Most recently last summer, when the terror tunnels were discovered after the 3 Israeli soldiers were kidnapped and murdered by Hamas. So even then, last summer, Israel is attacked. Obama shuts down Ben Gurion Airport. Now, I appreciate Netanyahu's diplomacy, and I think his historical sense is correct, that allies have disagreements, and that America, as Israel's ally, has often appeared not to be Israel's ally, although at the end it is. And it has been, because Israel represents Western civilization, and all the ideals of human rights, individual rights, separation of the state and religion, the freedom to criticize, the freedom of dissent. And we are all, America, Europe, and Israel, are up against the kind of terrorist barbarism that is destroying the artifacts in the Mosul Museum, that is crucifying Christians, that is setting human beings on fire to burn to death in cages, that is beheading human beings. This is what Israel is on the front lines against. And I only hope and pray that Americans understand that and make an even stronger alliance with Israel.
Phyllis, what does Netanyahu need to accomplish during his visit here? And did you hear anything in particular that caught your attention during his speech right there?
Well, he clearly wants to have a perception that America and Israel have been allies and will remain allies, despite hostilities or unpleasantness or unfairness, or despite Obama's administration's dislike for the Jewish state. That despite that, Netanyahu is seeing that as temporary. I mean, Obama's game plan is to unleash a nuclear Iran as a form of stability for the region. If Iran has more and more power and is nuclear powered, then that, which would be a disaster.
Phyllis, let me ask you this. The Prime Minister, you mentioned he was diplomatic today, but he also went through a litany in our long relationship saying that basically the Israel and the United States were like family. So in that context, there could be disagreements. But I was especially interested when he spoke of the times that Israel stood alone, like the Six-Day War back in 1967. Mindful of that, do you put any stock in the report from the Kuwaiti newspaper over the weekend that President Obama threatened to use American military assets to shoot down Israeli planes, part of a planned attack on Iranian nuclear installations last year?
From what I understand from military experts, we're not yet sure if that is indeed the case. I would believe it. I do know that there are alliances between Israel and Saudi Arabia that are unprecedented, because Saudi Arabia and other Sunni Muslims in the region view Iran, which is a Shiite Muslim country, as a danger to them, because Muslim on Muslim violence is as hot as Muslim on infidel violence. So this is a very, and Jordan is also making alliances with Israel.
And Phyllis, as you mentioned, this notion of almost a pan-Arab coalition, perhaps even sympathizing and working with Israel. On that intriguing note, we have to thank you. We'll bring you back to talk about the London girls and other Westerners going into the service of ISIS.